Welcome to the Special Education Inner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Katherine Witcher. If you sit at an IEP table, you belong here. For over 25 years, I've been helping parents, teachers, admins, and therapists build IEPs that work in the real world, and I can't wait to help you. Let's dive in. Special education should never feel like a punishment to a child. So I'm going to share with you something that has happened as I'm here packing up, getting ready to move from Milwaukee to Tampa, which means that I'm going through all of the things, including all of those papers that we save of our children's artwork and their school history. And just, I don't know, like there's some things, I don't know why we do this as a mom, right? I need to just take some pictures and keep the memories digitally and get rid of some of the papers. So that's what I was going through. And I've always told myself this story in my head. One of my daughters, she needed some RTI, so response to intervention services, when she was it was either second or third grade. And so I can remember going through all the paperwork. I can remember agreeing to her having services. And then I can remember signing her out of services due to her missing something fun at school. This is the story that was in my head. Like if you would have asked me before I saw these papers that I was going through, this is the story in my head. My daughter had services because she needed RTI services because she wasn't doing well on the standardized reading and language tests. And she was missing something. I assumed that it was probably art or gym, something that she wanted to go to. It was causing her a lot of stress because it was feeling like punishment to her that she had to go to these RTI classes. I looked at her data. I can remember watching one of her sessions, going in and observing. And I said, you know what? This isn't working. I'm going to go ahead and sign her out. And I remember I didn't sign her all the way out of RTI services, but there were two different levels, level 1, level 2. And I was taking her kind of down to the next level, meaning less services than what she was being recommended for, because this means she didn't have to leave her classroom. The level of services that I was moving her to, she could get from her regular classroom teacher. So as I'm going through her papers and I'm getting, ready for this move and deciding what am I keeping, what am I not keeping? And a lot of this has to do with how does this make me feel? Does this bring me joy? Am I going to bring it across the country with me? And I get to paperwork for RTI. And I look at the paperwork and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. And I can see I have one of the tests that she failed. And that I know that was one of the catalysts for having RTI services. And I was like, I don't even know why I kept this. This doesn't make me feel good, right? So I look at the RTI paperwork, I look at this failed test, and then I see the paperwork where it says I'm removing my daughter from services, against the recommendation of the school team. But again, I can remember the conversation that I was having with the teacher, and him and I had a plan of how we were going to help her so she didn't have to miss something that she wanted to do. RTI didn't feel like a punishment to her. So I see that piece of paper and I'm like, yeah, okay. Then I see a test, later on in the year. So the first test was in October. The second test was in April or May. And she, passed, flying colors, did great. And I'm like, yes, I can remember working with this teacher. This teacher was awesome. We came together. We had a plan. This was fantastic. My daughter didn't have to miss the things that she wanted to go to. But here's the thing. There was another piece of paper in this pile. And those kind of forms that teachers use that say, tell us, and this is for the student to fill out, tell us your favorite thing about school, or if you could change anything about school, what would it be? And my daughter filled out that she wishes school was 2 hours, 1 hour of recess and 1 hour of math, because she has to leave math to go to RTI. And that makes her sad because she loves math and she's good at it. It crushed me. I can tell you right now, I have all the feelings flooding back. I have tears that, could flow because it made me so upset back then. And it still makes me upset now that my daughter had a strength of math. And because she was so strong at math, that's what was determined as the good time to pull her out for RTI, for reading and language, because she didn't need the math instruction. And just no, you cannot take a child out of something that they're really good at, the one thing that's building their confidence, that's helping them get prepared for what their strengths are, for what their gifts are, and steal that away from them and say, no, we have to go work on things that, you know what, I know it's a struggle for you, but don't worry, you're good at math. Don't worry, you don't need that. All of these conversations came flooding back to me. I remember how upset my daughter was. It wasn't, PE class. It wasn't art. It wasn't recess. It wasn't something that she was missing that was kind of what we would see as a traditional thing that, well, the child loves this and they don't want to miss it. It was math class. And so what if it was something traditional that, is fun in school? If that's something that is a strength, if PE class is building confidence, if art class is building confidence, and recess should never be taken away for RTI or used as a punishment consequence. But I can remember that's why I moved my daughter. That's why I moved her and said, no, we are not going to steal her joy and ruin her day and make it even more frustrating to her that she's going to get this extra help by layering it into her day in a place where she really, really wants to be. Now, I do want to share with you, my daughter did not have an IEP. And had she had an IEP, I would have had to work with the team in a different way. There would have been different paperwork. There would have been different letter writing. There would have been a different system to make sure that her day was balanced and making sure that we're getting everything we need to have an appropriate education to meet her unique needs, to prepare her for further education, employment, and independent living. But that wasn't the case. She didn't even have a 504. So there was no access to education issues that I could go, and look at and say, okay, let's advocate this way. Let's, use this system. Let's use this process to really customize her day. This was just simply, she was not doing well on some standardized tests. She was recommended for a certain level of intervention. This was the schedule they had available. And this is how it was. And I said, no, this is not how it's going to be. I want to make sure that as parents and teachers, we are working together and finding that flexibility to make sure that we are providing services, whether it's RTI services, 504 supports, or a full-on IEP where we're preparing a child for the future under IDA law, whatever that is. We cannot steal the joy of learning from students in order to provide them with the support that they need in their areas of weakness. That is not fair to the child, and it takes away their confidence. It crushes them. We need to know exactly what is happening in a child's school day and make sure that we are customizing. I understand that is difficult for my teachers who are listening, who have your caseloads are overflowing. Your staff shortages are real. I get it. But when we take away a child's joy of learning in order to say we have to always work on your weaknesses, we are creating a long-term problem for the child when it comes to learning, when it comes to feeling that love for new knowledge. We're always pointing out the weakness, and that weakness then is multiplied because it's, well, you're strong at this, but that's not enough. So again, I want to encourage you, as we're getting here to the end of the school year and we're looking into next school year, schedules have to be considered, not just for where can we fit this in, but where is it appropriate to fit this in? How do we fit this in so we're supporting the whole child? So we're supporting their strengths and their weaknesses. I'm sure you can tell I get a little fired up. Of course, it's my own daughter. Emotions run high when it's your own child. That's a lot of times inside of our master IEP coach community. So You guys know we have our Master IEP coaches where you can hire a coach, you can earn your own Master IEP coach certificate so you can learn all the things that coaches know and use them for yourself, or you can learn to become a coach so you can be that person who helps other people. And a lot of times inside of our Master IEP coach community, we have this saying, we say coaches hire coaches. And that's because, when it's your own child, you get really emotional. Like, I know all the right things to do. And as a parent, you might know all of the right things that you need to do, but when your emotions are there, it is really hard to articulate and to get things done in a, we're going to say productive way, because we feel at a whole different level when it's our own child. So Master IEP coaches often hire other Master IEP coaches. They can help their own clients perfectly awesome, great, and have great success in, using collaborative strategies to get school teams and parents all on the same page and moving forward. But then when it comes to your own child, you're like, oh, this feels heavy. This feels like a lot. This feels so just overwhelming, even though you know what you're looking at. And that's where coaches hire coaches. I want to encourage you, if you have just some upcoming struggles coming, go look for the Master IEP Coach directory. It's at masteriepcoach.com. You'll see at the top, you'll see a little tab that says directory. If you want all of the Master IEP Coach methods to use for yourself, absolutely, that's the Master IEP Coach certificate. And if you're ready to help others through the IEP process, you want to be that person that people can go to when the emotions feel overwhelming and we have to find solutions that work. And you want to help a parent be collaborative with the school and understand things like, I knew that I couldn't change my daughter's entire schedule, but I also knew that I could work with the teacher directly and find a solution that, yes, we absolutely got her back to grade level. We absolutely closed that gap, and she didn't have to miss math to make that happen. That's called becoming a Master IEP coach, and you'll see the link wherever you are watching this. Go ahead and look into the show notes. You can see that link, or you can go to masteriepcoach.com. And at the top, you'll see a link that says courses. Go ahead and just click on that. I am just excited to tell you about one more thing. We now have a private Master IEP Coach podcast, which means that you can get some more strategies direct from Master IEP coaches themselves. Look below on the show notes, wherever you're listening at, you'll see a Master IEP Coach private podcast. You can get your direct link to those private trainings. It's free. You can listen to them, learn a little bit more about what Master IEP coaches are, but even more so, get strategies that you can put into place right away, right now, as a parent or teacher inside of the special education system. I'll see you guys next time. Wait, one quick thing before you go. If you enjoyed this episode of the Special Education Inner Circle podcast, could you please leave a review, share it with a friend, or maybe even take a screenshot and tag me on Instagram? Every time you leave a review or share, it helps more parents and teachers find resources they need to help them at their IEP table.